A travel and book review by Michele Wu of Traveling Reads. The location, Mackinac Island, Michigan. The book, Captured by Love by Jody Hedlund. Captured by Love is a historical fiction romance based on Mackinac Island, Michigan during the War of 1812. Angelique Mackenzie, the main character, loves her island but is fighting to survive due to lack of supplies during the winter and because of the war, as well as an overbearing, abusive stepfather who is ready to marry her off to the highest bidder. As she deals with her own struggles, Angelique risks everything to care for her aging and blind friend Miriam. Miriam's two sons were dear childhood friends of Angelique. Pierre, a free spirit who stole her heart as a child, left 5 years ago to join the fur trading business. The other, Jean, whose love for Angelique spanned the years, promised to take care of her when he asked her to marry him, but was forced to leave the island 2 years earlier as a loyal American when the British took control of Mackinac Island. Even though Angelique cares for Jean, she knows she will never love him as she loved Pierre, but he will provide a good, safe life for her. But as spring arrives on Mackinac Island and the ice over Lakes Michigan and Huron thaws to open up supply routes, the fur traders return to the island, and this time, Pierre is with them. So much has changed since he left. His father has passed away. His mother is blind and starving like most of the rest of the islanders. His brother is fighting with the Americans, and Angelique is no longer his little childhood friend, but has grown into a beautiful woman who also happens to be engaged to his brother. The summer of 1814 ends up completely different than Angelique could have guessed, as Pierre stays longer than he intended, the Americans fail at an attempt to take back the island, Jean among those fighting and ending up injured in the fight, a worsening relationship with her stepfather, and a decision to be made that will surely break the hearts of those dearest to her. While I don't often read romance, Captured by Love was a fun read as I planned a girls' trip to Mackinac Island, known today as Mackinac Island. Having grown up in Michigan, I visited the island several times during my childhood. As I read the book in anticipation of returning to the island for the first time as an adult, I knew Captured by Love painted a true picture of how I remembered Mackinac. A beautiful island located between the lower and upper peninsulas of Michigan, Mackinac sits where Lake Michigan and Lake Huron meet. First settled as a military fort, Mackinac has turned into a summer resort island and recently named by USA Today as the #1 summer destination in the United States for 2024. Mackinac Island is most commonly reached by ferry from either Mackinac City in Michigan's lower peninsula, or if you cross over Mackinac Bridge from St. Ignace on Michigan's upper peninsula. The most special thing about Mackinac Island, in my opinion, is there are no cars on the island. Transportation includes walking, bicycling, horseback, or horse-drawn carriage. While the fur trading business is long gone from the island, and the fort was decommissioned in 1895, Main Street is a bustle of visitors during the summer months. The Grand Hotel, Main Street shopping, tasting Mackinac Island fudge, horse-drawn carriage tours, biking the 8.2 miles around the island, Arch Rock, and Fort Mackinac are just a few of the must-do items during a visit to the island. Fort Mackinac, built on the tall bluffs of the island for a vantage point of any attacks, still stands today and is one of the first things you see when arriving on the island by ferry. It stands out with its stark white walls and white buildings. Today you can visit the fort and see the buildings as they were throughout the 1800s, as well as see demonstrations and reenactments. The view from the fort overlooking Lake Michigan and Lake Huron is also a sight to see. A visit to Mackinac Island means taking time to slow down and enjoy the breathtaking views around you. On this particular visit, there were a few places that stood out and I would recommend to anyone visiting. The Island Bookstore was a fun stop on Main Street where I picked up a couple of books. The Woods Restaurant, located about 2 miles outside of town, has a Bavarian hunting lodge theme. Dinner was delicious. I enjoyed the lake trout, which is what Angelique fished for and Captured by Love. The environment was fun, slightly formal, yet relaxing. From Main Street, you would need to take a horse-drawn carriage taxi to get to the woods. Give yourself about an hour to get there. For breakfast, my girlfriends and I were pointed to the Watercolor Cafe. Located just off Main Street near the marina, this tiny counter-service cafe did not disappoint. Their breakfast sandwiches and wraps were perfection, and more than could be eaten in one sitting.
There we go.
Their coffee and lavender matcha were also spot on. There was a bit of a line, but the food came out quite quickly. The recommendation for the Watercolor Cafe came from the employees at Mackinac Island Bike Shop, which is where we rented our bicycles for the day. All the employees were incredibly helpful, and we received a free bicycle basket and bottle of water with our bike rentals, both of which came in very handy as we biked our way around the island on a warm, sunny day. Mackinac Island Bike Shop is located next to the Shepler's Ferry Docks, which is the ferry line we rode to get to and from the island from the mainland. Shepler's Ferry made getting to and from the island incredibly convenient. With an unloading zone on the docks, ample mainland parking for both day trippers and overnight guests, porters to take care of your luggage if you are staying on the island, and shuttles to overnight accommodations on the island, the entire process ran smoothly and seamlessly. My last recommendation, if you visit Mackinac Island, is to always bring a jacket. Whether you visit in May or the middle of July, the weather can be cool any time of year, and I needed my jacket every evening during our middle of July visit. You will also want to have it handy while riding the ferry. Lastly, I will leave you with a couple more book recommendations based on Mackinac Island. Anne, by Constance Fenimore Woolson, was first published in 1880 and is a good depiction of how the island changed after the fur trading days. If you visit Mackinac Island's Fort Mackinac, find the reading room and look closely on their shelves to find their own copy of Anne. If you are interested in children's books, Cubby the Mackinac Island Bear is based on the true childhood stories of Dale Lensman as told to Julie Angeli and Heather Meloche. And The Legend of Mackinac Island by Kathy Jo Worgan explains why you may hear the island referred to as the Great Turtle. Happy traveling and reading until the next adventure.